Dear colleagues, we continue our working day, and the topic of the next event is how peaceful assemblies on the eve of so-called referendum in Crimea were counted and what happened to their participants and organizers. Our guests are Oleksandra Matviychuk, coordinator of NGO Euromaidan SOS, that initiated Let My People Go campaign, Andriy Schekun, journalist, activist, formerly prisoner in Crimea, Mykhailo Tarakhkalo, a lawyer of Ukrainian Helsinki human rights group who works on the cases of Mykola Sheptur, and Bekir Degermendzhy, father of Mustafa Degermendzhy, accused in case of February 26, Elnara Asanova, wife of Ali Asanov, accused in case of February 26, and Adam Semidlayev, he is the lawyer, Ali Asanova. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, and now Oleksandra is given the floor. We are thankful to all those who came to support the relatives of those who were imprisoned, and we decided on the eve of Human Rights Day to hold this press conference and to remind about peaceful assemblies that were held to oppose occupation, and how they were counted, and also in order to understand what is going on with organizers and participants of these events. Also to reject the myth about an uninterrupted and bloodless annexation of Crimea and joining Russian Federation. So this was not without blood, it was not without opposition. This movement of opposition was reinforced, and not to counter it, there was special operation held, and now documenting the crimes that were committed in course of annexation and comparing it with what is going on in Donbass. We see some logic of this special operation. The matter is, parallel to Green Men, some special forces appeared, the representatives of Russian Federation, the representatives of special services. They coordinated the actions of paramilitary groups of self-defense of Crimea, and together they listed all those activists whom they wanted to neutralize in order to hold the referendum. And they created the special points where detained activists were checked, and then they were sent to some facilities, and that all happened during the first stage of before referendum happened, at the moment when Putin yet didn't recognize that these green men, these polite people, as his servicemen. And also second stage, when Russian power took responsibility, was fake criminal cases against participants, not only seizure and apprehension of these people and beatings of people. So these cases are ongoing, people are in prison, and time goes by. When you're in prison, it goes by differently. And now we are going to tell you about the special operation, how these peaceful assemblies were dealt with and what happened with organizers and participants of these meetings. This is Andriy Schekun, Mykola Sheptur, and case of 22nd August, Ali Asanov, Degermendzhy, and I give the floor to Ali Schekun. Thank you. You know, at that moment, when administrative buildings were seized in Crimea, it was done by so-called green men. We understood that it was not a joke, and the activists of Euromaidan Crimea, they reformed their actions, and they gathered near Shevchenko Monument in Simferopol. The first action was on the 1st of March, attended by about 20 people. Journalists were about 200, and this was actions near Shevchenko Monument. More people joined. They suppressed their fear, and the most powerful action was held on the 8th of March near Petra Grigorenko Monument, near Simferopol Theater, Cinema, and for 2 minutes we were there, and then some armed people from self-defense opposed us, and we went to the military unit in Karl Marx, and our servicemen supported us, and our action inspired people in order that they supported armed forces of Ukraine, that they didn't leave Crimea, and provide them with opportunity to understand that together with society we're all together, and we support them. And to show that there are pro-Ukrainian meetings as well, because in the media only Russian meetings were shown. So we had these meetings where we could do this, and we did it in different locations, not in the center, in order not to put our people under threat. And also occupation of Crimea 2 hours before in Anatoly Kovalsky, we were seized by self-defense, and we were handed in to Girkin and Besler, and Ukraine knew them only when they seized Slavyansk, and we were seized by them, and we were held in captivity in commissariat in Simferopol, and other people were there, and they were tortured and beaten, and they interrogated me and tortured me. Some people that they called themselves not self-defense, but Crimean army, they called themselves. They interrogated us, and they controlled us in the basements. The matter is that actions were reinforced, and you maybe saw this in the media, that Crimea started to understand that the situation was really dangerous, and people started to say that Crimea is Ukraine. And in my opinion, these were special groups who followed the activists. And I saw that they observed and they established surveillance, and first my 2 sons went from Crimea, and on the 6th my wife and my middle son also left Crimea. We understood that something was going on, and we couldn't leave Crimea altogether, and all organizational actions were made by us near Shevchenko Monument, and all the meetings we were responsible for them. That's why we did everything possible under the situation that was in Crimea. And in last week we were not in our houses, we were staying, and we changed locations. And unfortunately, Anatoly Kovalsky and me, we were arrested, and these actions after 9th of March, actions were carried out without us, and they stopped to carry out these massive actions in the support of Ukraine with the use of national symbols during these actions. So mobile groups Euromaidan SOS were active in Crimea, and they observed peaceful assemblies for the unity of Ukraine, and people who attended and were brought from other regions to support Crimeans, they understood that they are under threat, because everyone saw and knew about tragic death of Rishat Tanetov, a Crimean Tatar, who was seen when he was seized by self-defense of Crimea, and then his body was found in the forest. So I give the floor to the director. lawyer of Ukrainian Helsinki Human Rights Union, Mykhailo Tarakhkalo. He would tell us about Mykola Sheptur case. We support a lot of cases connected with Crimea, and Mykola Sheptur case included. And the celebration of anniversary of Shevchenko, and in the course of this peaceful assembly, Nikolai was present together with other colleagues. Peaceful assembly was dissolved by self-defense. They used violence. Activists were dissolved, and after this they started to persecute them, and they started to follow them in the city. And at this moment there was conflict of Nikolai with the Crimean self-defense, and one of the colleagues of Nikolai was attacked by self-defense of Crimea, and he tried to flee, but he was followed, and then Nikolai started to shoot in order to frighten them. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that Crimean self-defense, these were people that they used violence without they used violence and against people without any grounds, and he believed that Nikolai believed that he could have been killed or tortured, and despite this he didn't use these arms against people. He was just trying to flee. He was detained, and after this court started, and he was tortured, interrogated, and they wanted to get his words that he tried to kill someone from self-defense, but this is not true. And at the end, there was a court hearing that sentenced him up to 9 years in prison. And it is a terrible situation because Russian courts, they do not want to consider cases concerning activists who are pro-Ukrainian. They do not want to be fair in this. They always try to choose the most brutal punishment to people in order to threaten the society, in order to suppress people, in order that people was disorganized. And it happened in Nikolai case. And there were serious grounds to review this case and to see that this was the case of self-defense, but this was fully ignored, and he was found guilty, and the situation is like this. And now the case is in the European Court, and maybe it will provide the opportunity to release him from responsibility and to save him from Russian captivity. And people who do not know the details of the case, they are surprised by this presence of weapon in the case. And Nikolai didn't fire at people. He fired. It was non-precision firing just to threaten them away. And I would like to say more. Even if he wanted to defend himself even more actively, he had all grounds to do so, because he was attacked by armed unit that didn't have any legal status. Before this, on the 9th of March, they used force without any legal grounds. They did everything they wanted. They apprehended people, they seized people. Everyone was frightened in Crimea because of them. And any person, any free person, has the right to defend himself or his property, life and health. And Nikolai is a free man, as we all are. And the special forces Andriy Schekun mentioned, Strelkov, they moved to Donbass, and we saw the whole picture. everything they are capable of, and this is a separate topic. And after referendum, so-called referendum that was made under the threat of guns, then Russian Federation started to fabricate cases against the participants of peaceful assemblies, and the most renowned case is case of February 26. And we are lucky that at this press conference we have relatives of those who were accused in these cases, and I give the floor to Bekir Degermendzhy.
Good afternoon, dear journalists. I arrived today to tell about us, about our children in Crimea. I am father of Mustafa Degermendzhy. My name is Bekir. My son was arrested on May 7th at 8 o'clock in the morning. He was arrested as a terrorist, as a criminal. Masked people, they blocked the road and they forced him to go to the car. His mother tried to protect him, but she failed, and he was brought to Simferopol pre-detention center. After 2 days, he was detained for 2 months, and he remains in jailed for 1 year and a half so far. My son is accused of taking part in February 24th meeting. We took part in that meeting for the united Ukraine. Crimea was territory of Ukraine, and my son is being tried by Russia according to Russian Federation's laws. There are no changes for better, and there are no changes in this proceedings, court proceedings. They just extend his period in jail. We have good lawyers, but they can't do anything. Any requests of our lawyers, they are rejected. They are dismissed. I think everyone is waiting for decision from top leaders, and this courts, they can't do their own decisions. People in this jail, they do not have even individual beds. They sleep in turn, and catering is also very bad. We request the change of the pre-detention measures, but the requests of lawyers have been rejected. They say that he can escape. We don't understand what for he is being tried by the court, because the meetings were in one country, in Ukraine, and now Crimea is another country. I came to this press conference to tell that this chaos and unlawfulness still is present in Crimea, so that this briefing will tell the whole world this. I would like to add that the relatives we asked relatives why Mustafa was chosen. Thousands of people took part in the meeting. Relatives don't know why. The video which was shot on that meeting, it depicts Mustafa. This is the only reason, the only evidence against Mustafa, although this video doesn't demonstrate those events in which Mustafa is accused of, and we are very much excited with how he behaves himself in the jail. He behaves very well. He says, I'm not guilty and I will be proving that I am not guilty. He was told openly to
Он сказал, я буду доказывать свою невиновность до конца.
To accept his guilt and to tell that other people are guilty who are not. With your help, I hope we will achieve his freedom. The other figure in this case, Ali Asanov, and we have his wife in this hall. I'm Asanova Elnara, the wife of Ali Asanov, who is accused in this case. He was detained in the evening. It was not time. Ali was in the yard. My father came and he asked what happened. When we just went out of the house, we saw that Ali Asanov is no longer in the yard. On April 15th, he was detained. On April 16th, the relatives were in Simferopol and didn't find him. On April 17th, the first court sitting took place where the period of detention was extended to 2 months. Ali Asanov and Mustafa Degermendzhy didn't know each other. I don't know what criteria were used to detain him. His health condition is bad. His blood tension is high. He had hypertonia, hypertension. I was allowed to visit him to observe his medical condition. As I have 4 children, I can't visit him often. And when he was detained, I had 3 children and I was pregnant. I have an appeal to our audience, journalists, and our authorities to talk more about this case, because these 2 men, they are kept in jail just in order to make all Crimean Tatars be unfair. For unknown reasons, the case was divided. The case against Khtemchuk goes now is a separate case, and the case against Ali Asanov and Mustafa Degermendzhy is another second case, and the relatives told that these 2 men, they even don't know each other, and they didn't know each other. And the relatives of the figures in this case, nobody tell about them in the mass media space. That is why we hold this press briefing to draw your attention to heroic deeds of these ordinary people who didn't think of becoming heroes, but they are in such circumstances that they are forced to demonstrate their heroic features of their character. Good afternoon. I would like to thank organizers for this press conference. We lack attention, we lack coverage on the part of mass media. As far as we see this from Crimea, today we have 22 political prisoners in pre-detention centers, and their number is growing day by day, and we lack information. Now people are also in jail, in mental hospitals, and this is also not covered. These cases are not covered in mass media. I would like to tell about several violations. People are left hungry for the whole day long. People do not eat for 24 hours when they are brought to court sittings. This could be evaluated as tortures because staying in pre-detention center, this is torture in itself, and all this thing they are towards making them saying that it was organized by Akhtem Chigos, but the law enforcement officers made the mistake. These guys are very strong, and even under pressure they don't want to tell lies about Akhtem Chigos. They remain strong, and nobody of them plead guilty. And I would like to say about Mykola Sheptur. I visited him in the correction facility. His state of health is satisfactory. He does not have any contacts with the world, and he was tortured. This is true. He was beaten. He was tortured with electric shock device, and he has scars from electric stroke, and he was set a condition: either you would confess that you tried to kill someone from self-defense unit. That is why he wrote the statement that he wanted to kill someone. Based on this confession, they issue a verdict of guilty against him. We really need more coverage on the part of mass media sources. We are asking you now to communicating with the relatives of political prisoners. The relatives are saying that these people do not complain about their health state, and they even support those who remain at home. We know that Ali Asanov's wife, she is a mother of 4 children. She even can't go to court sittings because she has nobody to leave her small children with. And this concerns Ali Asanov. His state of health is not good. And Mykola Sheptur's case, it was forgotten. This requires attention. The person who went to support peaceful resistance of Crimean people, any member of mobile teams who were monitoring the violation of human rights in Crimea, any one of us could be at his place, and only hope, the relatives understand, the only hope for their freedom, this is international pressure on the Russian Federation. Unless we bring this issue to international agenda, these people won't be freed. So please pay attention and remember that the time in jail passes in the other terms as it is when you live outside the jail.
Questions. Taras Ibragimov question to Zhemedlev. What forecast do you have on the case of February 26th? And what happened after this case was divided? About Chigos, they say that they expect sentence in February. I don't know whether this forecast is true. I believe that Artem Chigov's case, the court hearings are active, witnesses, and they are interviewed. And about other case of 5 people, everything is really slow. We have 11th hearing, but the case was not started really. Only 2 witnesses were interviewed, and we cannot say why it happens so, why the process is so slow. And we submit some claims, but court rejects them, and the court hearing is held in the very small hall. So the things are like this. Their company news. Tell us, please, about your son. What is his condition, his health, and how often do children see their father, and who helps you? So he won't tell us if he is in bad condition, because when there is opportunity to ask him during court hearings, and law enforcement do not allow us to speak to him, but he always say that everything is okay, because he is such a person. He won't say that something is bad. He tries to protect us, and he hides that everything is not so good. He is pale, and but he is confident in his behavior, and I'm really proud of him. Of course, I want him to do other things and be proud of it, but the situation is like this. But he is doing his best. But I cannot attend him because I am a witness in the case, and my wife also attended him when this case was heard, but then this case was divided, and the judge of the Supreme Court, High Court, he rejected our claim, and they say that lawyers are enough to attend him, and to wife of Ali Asanov, they said that Ali Asanov, they said that she doesn't have any, that she is not a lawyer and lawyer is enough, but there is no direct influence. So Ali sees his children only sometimes during court hearing in the corridor when they are entered. So in this moment he is able to see his kids. And the fourth child, he was born when Ali was detained, and he saw for several minutes in the corridor. And the child is walking and talking, and the things are like this. And concerning help, we live in a rural area. I do everything, and my relatives, our relatives, help, because physically there is a lot of physical labor, so people help us. Do you have a question? Could you please tell us about the kids? So they are influenced by the separation with their father, and maybe someone helps you, we mean materially. And Crimean people, they help us. They do not leave us alone with our troubles. People come and help, and they bring things. They help with everything. What they can, they do everything. Children are growing, and it is more difficult to explain to them why their father is not with them. And sometimes children have meltdowns when they see that their father is absent. Psychologically, it's really difficult for them. Last question. Other questions can be put off record, so the last question. Good afternoon, Arkhipova Yulia. Slava Svobode. We ask people to write letters to prisoners, and we help them to do this. And I would like to ask lawyers and relatives about correspondence with the letters in a Simferopol detention facility, because people say that the situation is bad. And I would like to ask relatives whether someone sends letters to the prisoners and how it influences on the state of these prisoners. Simple letters can be gotten there, so people send letters, and sometimes letters are not in Russian. We had action when children, they painted for Ramazan Bayram. There were some inscriptions in Tatar, and these letters were not allowed because those who serve in prison, they do not understand this language. But there were about three words written in Tatar. But there were many letters from Ukraine and abroad, and even from Australia. And this letter was sent to these people who are in prison, who are in pre-trial facilities. Sometimes they can get these letters, sometimes they cannot. Of course, letters should be written, and people just provide these letters to us, and we can bring these letters and provide these letters to prisoners, and this is a great support, the support of their spirit. Thank you very much for all these letters. Yes, they are sent and the prisoners get them. Thank you, dear colleagues. Do you have other comments? If there are no, we will end our press briefing. If you have some questions, you can put them off records. Thank you very much and goodbye.